Picture this. You are at a weekend catch-up with friends. The energy is fantastic. The stories are flowing, music in the background.
Yeah, the kind of night you just don't want to end.
Exactly. And somebody cracks an absolutely perfect joke, and you just let go. You throw your head back for a wide, genuine, completely uninhibited laugh.
Yeah.
And right at that exact second, a camera flashes.
Oh, right. We have all been there, the classic candid mid-laugh photo.
Right. And later, you're looking at that photo on your phone, you're zooming in, seeing how everyone looked. But your eye doesn't go to your great outfit. It doesn't go to how happy you look.
Let me guess. It goes straight to the mouth.
Yeah. Your eye goes straight to a dark, metallic gray shadow sitting right in the back corner of your mouth. It just draws focus like a magnet.
It completely hijacks the memory. I mean, instead of seeing the emotion of the evening, you're suddenly like hyper fixated on a piece of hardware sitting in your jaw.
It's so true. So if you have ever felt self-conscious about those dark metal fillings, or maybe you have a brand new cavity and you're just praying nobody will ever see the repair, you are in exactly the right place.
Definitely.
Today, our deep dive is pulling from some really fascinating clinical protocols provided by My Gentle Dentist at Brookside. They're located right in the heart of Brisbane's northwest.
Yeah, and reviewing their source material reveals this massive paradigm shift in modern dentistry.
Right, because they operate on this really simple but powerful truth. Healthcare shouldn't just restore the mechanical function of your teeth. It should actually protect your confidence.
And framing the clinical data through that lens, patient confidence is, well, it's critical here. I mean, historically, medical focus is almost purely on functional survival, right?
Like, can the patient chew? Is the pain gone?
Exactly. But understanding that modern healthcare is now pivoting to protect the psychological well-being of the patient, that's where the real evolution happens.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we are looking at what their clinical notes call the ultimate invisible fix.
The modern white dental filling.
Yeah. We're going to explore the actual molecular science of composite resins and look at exactly why the era of metal mouth dentistry is, well, officially over.
And figure out how clinicians are turning a standard cavity repair into, like, a seamless, invisible work of art.
Right. So where do we start?
Well, to really appreciate the sophistication of this invisible fix, we first have to examine the ghost of fillings past.
The dreaded amalgam.
Exactly. For the better part of a century, if you walked into a clinic with a cavity, you were almost certainly receiving an amalgam filling.
It's just the word sounds heavy. Amalgam. Like industrial equipment or something.
Yeah, it does.
The source material describes them aesthetically as looking like a, quote, permanent tiny storm cloud inside your tooth.
That's a very accurate description.
But aesthetics aside, from a purely functional standpoint, I mean, amalgam was considered a medical miracle for decades.
Yeah.
It was incredibly hard. The source actually compares it to 20th century plumbing.
Plumbing is the perfect analogy. It really captures the sheer utilitarian nature of it. I mean, amalgam is essentially a mixture of liquid mercury and a powdered alloy of silver, tin, and copper.
Wow.
Yeah. It was robust and it was cheap to produce. But it came with two massive fundamental flaws that eventually forced the industry to move on.
And the first flaw is that storm cloud aesthetic we mentioned.
Right. But the second flaw, the one that really dictates the longevity of your oral health, is structural.
Wait, if metal is fundamentally so strong, why was it ever the go-to if it ultimately breaks the natural tooth? I mean, we put titanium in hips and knees specifically because it doesn't break down.
That's a really great point. It raises an important question. Why does a material that works miracles in a hip replacement become a total liability in the mouth?
Right.
The answer lies in the dynamic environment of the oral cavity and the specific biology of human and mammal. You see, your mouth is subjected to extreme temperature swings every single day.
Oh, like eating and drinking.
Exactly. So the metal amalgam filling inside your tooth absorbs ambient heat and physically expands, just like railway tracks expanding in the summer sun.
Okay, I get basic thermal expansion, but the human mouth isn't a railway track. We are talking about microscopic shifts.
Microscopic but relentless. I mean, think about your daily timeline. You drink a steaming hot cup of coffee. The metal amalgam swells up inside the rigid, unforgiving structure of the tooth enamel.
And enamel doesn't stretch.
Right. It doesn't yield at all.
Yeah.
Then 10 minutes later, you follow that coffee with, say, freezing cold water. The temperature plummets, and that same metal rapidly contracts.
Oh, wow. And this cycle happens day after day, year after year.
For decades.
And enamel, for all its strength, isn't meant to have a fluctuating metal wedge pulsing inside of it.
Exactly. Over a 20-year timeline, that constant thermal flexing frequently causes the natural tooth wall around the metal to suffer microcracks.
That is wild.
Yeah, the very intervention designed to save the tooth from bacterial decay ends up mechanically fracturing the tooth from the inside out.
Which brings up an even crazier part of this history from the sources. Because amalgam is just a mixture of metals, it has zero biological adhesion.
Right, none.
It doesn't chemically bond to bone or enamel at all.
The clinical term is that it lacks a chemical coupling agent. Amalgam just sits there.
So how did it stay in?
Well, to make this slippery chunk of metal stay inside a tooth, early dentistry relied on what we call the box flaw. Clinicians had to use a highly destructive drilling technique.
Destructive?
Yeah, they couldn't just remove the decay. They had to drill away perfectly healthy, pristine tooth structure just to carve out a physical, undercut shape inside the tooth.
Oh, so they were essentially hollowing out the tooth to create a mechanical trapdoor.
Exactly. The bottom of the hole had to be wider than the top, so once the metal hardened, it was physically wedged in and couldn't pop out when you chewed a piece of caramel.
That is just, it's a brute force engineering solution to a biological problem.
It really is. You're permanently sacrificing healthy enamel just to accommodate the limitations of the filling material.
So science eventually realized we needed a material that didn't act like a foreign wedge. We needed something biomimetic.
Right, something that actually mimics the human body.
Which brings us to the clinical data from My Gentle Dentist at Brookside. Their protocols emphasize that a restored tooth shouldn't look or behave like it's been repaired at all.
It should operate as if it never had a problem in the first place.
And achieving that requires a complete departure from liquid metal.
Absolutely. The modern standard of care relies entirely on composite resin restorations.
Right. But when people hear the term white filling, the mental image is usually like a squeezed tube of opaque white paste, something akin to bathroom caulk or liquid plastic.
Yeah, that's the common misconception. But diving into the actual chemistry of these resins is mind-blowing.
It really is.
The composition is this highly sophisticated, multi-phase material. The base matrix is an acrylic resin, but on its own, acrylic would wear down instantly under the immense bite force of human jaws.
Because we bite down with so much pressure.
Right. So to give it structural integrity, that acrylic is fortified with microscopic powdered glass and ceramic filler particles.
Glass and ceramic embedded inside the tooth. That sounds intense.
It does, but it's brilliant. The glass and ceramic provide the immense compressive strength necessary to crush food. And the acrylic resin acts as a flexible, adaptive binder, holding it all together.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the aesthetic application of this glass resin matrix isn't just paint the tooth white.
Oh, definitely not.
Like if I go to the hardware store to match a patch of paint on my living room wall, I inevitably fail. The patch always looks slightly off. And human teeth are infinitely more complex than drywall.
Oh, without a doubt.
Enamel has custom translucency. There are tiny variations in cream tones, pearl tones, and the specific way natural light penetrates the surface.
The optical physics happening in your mouth are incredibly complex. A natural tooth isn't just one solid color, it's a layered optical system.
A layered system.
Yeah. Light passes through the semi-translucent outer enamel, hits the denser yellowish dentin underneath, and then scatters back out to the viewer's eye.
So the filling material can't just be opaque white, or it would look like a piece of bright chewing gum stuck in your smile.
Exactly. It has to replicate that layered light scattering effect.
And reviewing the clinical approach at Brookside, they treat shade matching as an absolute science.
They really do. Clinicians use professional shade guides to evaluate the opacity, the tint, and the light reflection of your specific surrounding enamel.
So the composite resins are formulated to be chameleons. They actively absorb and reflect the exact light of the microscopic environment around them.
It's basically an optical illusion powered by powdered glass. You're replacing the storm cloud with a perfectly camouflaged mirror.
That is so cool. Aesthetics protect the patient's confidence, but returning to the mechanics, the structure protects their long-term health.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the true revolution of composite resin isn't optical. It's how the material physically integrates with human biology on a microscopic level.
That's the key.
Okay, so you have a material that looks perfect and has the compressive strength of glass. But if we are abandoning the old method of drilling an undercut box to physically trap the filling, how does this new material actually stay in my mouth?
Well, we transition from the mechanical trap to the micromechanical bond. The application process is basically a masterclass in modern chemistry.
Walk me through it.
First, the clinician applies a mild conditioning gel to the prepared tooth. This gel works on a microscopic scale to slightly open the natural porous tubules in the dentin and roughen up the enamel surface.
Oh, so you're preparing the canvas,
Yeah.
creating microscopic texture for the resin to grab onto.
Exactly. Then, the custom-matched composite resin is placed into the area. And because it doesn't harden immediately upon exposure to air, the clinician has a really generous window of time to work the material.
To make sure it fits perfectly.
Right. They ensure it reaches every microscopic crevice of the cleaned cavity.
And the real magic trick happens when they bring out that specialized high-intensity blue light. I've always wondered what that light actually does.
The curing light. It triggers a profound chemical transformation. Let's delve into the mechanics of polymerization.
Polymerization, okay.
Yeah. The composite resin contains specific molecules called photoinitiators. When struck by the exact wavelength of that blue light, these photoinitiators react instantly. They break double chemical bonds and start a massive chain reaction.
So the liquid acrylic rapidly cross-links into a rigid three-dimensional polymer web.
In a matter of seconds, the soft resin transforms into a solid matrix. But more importantly, because the resin flowed into those microscopically opened pores created by the gel,
The resulting polymer web is deeply intertwined with the natural calcium of the tooth.
yes, it literally fuses to the biology.
I want to make sure I am fully grasping the medical implications of this. So, because the material chemically glues itself directly to the calcium, does that mean we finally get to skip the whole drilling a giant box step?
Entirely. This
Yeah.
is the very foundation of ultra-conservative dentistry.
Wow.
The clinician's only job is to remove the exact footprint of the decay itself. They conserve every possible millimeter of your healthy enamel because, well, they just don't need a physical trapdoor anymore.
That is incredible. You keep more of your natural self.
Exactly.
And instead of a metal wedge trying to push the tooth apart every time you drink coffee, the resin actually acts like an internal brace. It holds the natural walls together from the inside.
Right. It restores the tooth's original tensile strength. It is fundamentally biomimetic, mimicking the biological mechanics it's replacing.
Okay, so you chemically glued the tooth back together, and we know it's structurally sound. But, structurally sound doesn't mean comfortable.
True.
The human tongue is incredibly sensitive. It can detect a single grain of sand in a bite of food. If you leave microscopic glass and ceramic embedded in an acrylic web in my mouth, isn't that going to feel like a chalkboard?
What's fascinating here is how the final phase of the protocol elevates the procedure from a purely clinical intervention to a delicate artisan craft.
An artisan craft.
Yeah, because a successful micromechanical bond is useless if the patient is constantly distracted by a foreign texture in their bite.
Which brings us back to the specific ethos of My Gentle Dentist at Brookside. Their clinical literature makes it clear that the way these fillings are physically finished matters just as much as the futuristic chemistry.
The sculpting phase requires a highly trained hand. Once the decay is removed and the resin is bonded, the clinician doesn't just leave a flat, functional surface.
Teeth aren't flat.
Exactly. They use specialized microinstruments to sculpt the natural grooves, the intricate ridges, and the exact anatomy of a real tooth directly into the top of the resin.
So they are painstakingly rebuilding the topography of your bite, so your upper and lower teeth meet perfectly, just like they did before the cavity ever existed.
Spot on. And following the anatomical sculpting comes the tactile element. The resin undergoes a multi-step, high-gloss artisan polish.
To fix the texture.
Yes. The clinical goal is to entirely eliminate that gritty, chalkboard sensation. The polish refines the surface at a microscopic level.
So when you run your tongue over the finished restoration later that evening, it feels exactly like wet, smooth, natural glass. It feels completely integrated.
The integration extends beyond just the tooth itself, really. It permeates the entire clinical environment.
How so?
Well, precision work like this, sculpting microscopic grooves and managing light-curing polymers, it requires a completely controlled setting.
Oh, I see. And reading through the Brookside protocols, they've built their entire patient experience around anxiety reduction to facilitate that precision.
Exactly. Caring for the Mitchelton, Everton Park, and Northwest Brisbane community right at the Brookside hub, they prioritize making this advanced chemistry accessible and entirely stress-free.
Because anxiety makes it harder for everyone.
Anxiety reduction is vital. When a patient is tense, the entire physiological system is on high alert, It makes precise, Microscopic bonding significantly more difficult for both the clinician and the patient.
But their standard of care guarantees the procedure is remarkably relaxing. The tooth is profoundly numb, there is no rushing the artisan finish, and the entire process takes less than an hour.
Less than an hour to undo years of structural stress and aesthetic self-consciousness. I mean, the highest compliment an artisan dentist can receive today is not that their work looks good.
It's that their work is entirely invisible to the patient.
Exactly. Invisible.
Which brings us right back to where we started. That weekend catch-up with friends. Your smile is the very first thing you introduce to the world. It's how you signal joy, how you build trust, how you connect with the people around you.
It's so fundamental to who we are.
And hearing all of this, exploring the evolution from metal plumbing that destroys healthy enamel to powdered glass chameleon resin that fuses with your calcium, there's simply no reason to let an old silver filling hold your laugh back anymore.
The technology has long surpassed the compromise. We just no longer have to choose between structural durability and aesthetic confidence.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So if you are listening to this and visualizing that dark shadow in your own candid photos, the team at My Gentle Dentist at Brookside is ready to welcome you in to their quiet, stress-free practice.
It's really worth checking out.
You can jump online right now and visit mygentledentistbrookside.com.au to explore their clinical approach.
Yeah.
Or, if you are local to the Northwest Brisbane area, just pop in and speak to their front desk team next time you're doing your shopping at the Brookside Hub.
Yeah, they're right there.
So what does this all mean?
It means that the standard of care has fundamentally shifted from crude engineering to elegant biology. A restored tooth shouldn't look like it's been repaired. It should look, feel, and function entirely like the original equipment.
We've moved from hiding the damage to erasing it completely.
Erased completely.
It really is a marvel of modern chemistry, and it leaves you with something pretty profound to think about as you go about your day. We've seen today how tooth repair evolved from violently wedging foreign, expanding metal into a destructively drilled hole, to gently fusing microscopic glass and resin directly to our natural calcium using a molecular chain reaction triggered by blue light.
And it's quite the leap.
It makes you wonder, if clinicians can now perfectly mimic the light reflection, the exact tactile texture, and the complex structural integrity of human enamel with this kind of advanced technology, how long till other standard mechanical medical repairs across the rest of the human body are entirely replaced by this kind of invisible biomedic chemistry?
It's a fascinating thought.
Will we look back at the titanium screws in our knees and the metal plates in our wrists the exact same way we now look at a mouthful of dark metal amalgam? Until then, the next time you throw your head back for a genuine laugh and that camera flashes, you can rest easy knowing the only thing shining back